Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes for those keeping count. This is episode 335. Imagine that. So, in today's episode, and I know there's a lot of people out there frustrated with their email marketing and how they can make it better. I've been using email marketing for, I don't know, ever since email was invented. We're going back 94, 95. So, people are like, 30 years of email. Yeah. So my next guest, Scott Hartley, is going to help us hopefully understand email marketing a little bit better, especially in today's day and age where everybody wants to have, I don't know, what do we want to say about that? I mean, it just email deliverability is just horrible right now. And Gmail and Microsoft are basically, saying what we can see and what we can't see.
Yep.
So, Scott, welcome, and yeah, this is going to be interesting and fun because, like I said, I've been using email for at least 30 years,
hmm
and the rules have changed over the last few years. It used to be you could just email your whole list out of your own provider, and it would be okay. Now it's getting flagged as spam right out of the gate. And a lot of stuff that we thought was safe Google is just throwing right into the spam filter without even warning anybody.
Yeah, the rules have really changed over the past couple of years, and especially since last year. So 2024, and we're still seeing more of those changes happening here in 2025. And it's not getting easier for marketers; it's getting much more difficult. But um, the good news about that is that those marketers who shift and adjust, there's massive opportunities for them. Like the doors are wide open
Mhm.
because the reality, and you and I talked about this before, is most people don't want to do the work that's necessary to be highly successful in any one area.
Right.
And so with email marketing, a lot of people don't want to put in the time and the energy, the investment, the effort. And so they're going to be some of the victims of these new rules of email marketing. But those who say, hey, email is important and I'm going to be in that top 1% to 2%, those are the people who are going to reap the massive rewards.
Yeah. I think as marketers, we all think, oh, it's just the headline. We can grab them with the headline. Yeah, but if your body copy is awful, they're
Yeah,
just gonna, unsubscribe or list you as spam and you don't want that either.
yeah. The one thing that I feel like we've lost, with email marketing, especially the way a lot of businesses do email marketing, is that they've lost the relational aspect, building the relationship with our subscribers.
Mhm.
I talked a lot about that email still is the number one way to generate revenue for a business.
Mhm.
Yes, there's all this social media. Yes, there's all these other ways that you can make money, but email still has the highest return on investment.
Mhm.
It's anywhere from 36 to $42 for every dollar that you spend on email marketing. So a lot of businesses, they see that, and what do? All their emails are buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff.
Mhm.
Instead of looking at, hey, I need to build a relationship with my list, with my subscribers. They aren't just numbers in a database, they're real humans that
Mhm.
are sitting on the other side of a computer screen, and they want to know more about me. They want to know more about my business. They want to know more about who am I to make this offer and how are you going to help me,
Mhm.
right? And so the marketers who make that shift, that mindset adjustment, and look at like, okay, these are real people who I want to impact and who I want to influence. Those are the people that are then going to say, hey, I want to do business with you because I believe in what you're doing and I believe in what you can do for me.
Right.
And so those businesses have much more success than just the people who are constantly sending out the buy my stuff emails, because that type of behavior goes to just what you said. Those emails get a lot of unsubscribes. They get a lot of spam complaints.
Mhm.
Now that creates the mess that we're in with all of these new rules that Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo are now rolling out.
Yeah, with my emails, I'll send out an email every Monday, and that basically in that email, it'll have a message from me, which is 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Hmm.
It'll have the latest edition of an eHeroes podcast on video. It might have a testimonial that someone shared about our service, and it'll have a couple books that we've published that we think that they might be interested in that month. And then there's also a link to they can go to our blogs and read stuff. And every Friday, not every Friday, every first Friday, we do what's called a First Friday freebie, and we'll give out a free book. They can
Hmm.
just download it. And so there's a lot of stuff that we give away that's not, hey, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. It's and yeah, we probably once or twice a month we'll roll out a book and say this is our latest book,
Hmm.
buy it, or go to Amazon, get the Kindle, whatever you want to do. But we try to shy away from always being that, sell, sell, sell.
Yeah.
And now, I used to do a daily email.
Hmm.
And, between my daily email and now my less frequently, I mean, it goes out every Monday and then there's random stuff throughout the month. But I didn't see any difference between the daily versus what we're doing now. And we did the daily email for almost 2 years. And,
Hmm.
you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Whereas the weekly, I can just throw it all up and have it scheduled 6 months in advance and I get it all done. But the dailies were just a lot of work and I just didn't see the return versus what we're doing now. But, there's a lot of people out there say, Rob, you should do it 2 or 3 times a day. What? And I
Yeah.
know that there's people out there that do it, and
Yeah.
maybe they have a full-time staff that just does emails, but I don't think anybody wants to read my messages 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah, I've got one guy that I'm subscribed to his list, and it's at least 2 to 3 times a day.
Mhm,
That I'm getting an email from him, and I don't read all of those. Now there are, I've got a handful of people, probably about 4 to 5, that send daily emails. I love reading those emails and I will read them every single day. They usually come in the morning and I read those, kind of getting started for my day and everything. But, for most people, and again, this is where you have to look at your metrics. You have to look at, how are people engaging, or how are they opening, clicking, and replying on your emails
mhm,
to see what is the right frequency for my audience. So for some of the people that I'm on, daily is the perfect frequency for their audience because they've got a lot of engaged subscribers. They want to hear from them every single day because they're providing massive value. For another audience, daily may be way too much. It's
mhm,
like, hey, Scott, you've got some great stuff, but I don't want to see you in my inbox every day, right?
mhm,
Let's cut that back. And so, it's one of those things where you need to test that with your audience. Should you do a weekly email? Should it be twice, 2 to 3 times a week? Something like you do, where you've got a weekly email and then you've got, one that goes out on the first Friday, and then you may have some other things that are interspersed throughout.
mhm,
You have to find what works for your audience. And that leads to, this next important point here. The biggest shift that has happened since last year is around engagement.
mhm.
Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, they are looking how your subscribers are engaging with your emails. And engagement does not mean open.
Right.
Okay. Google just updated in 2024 their best practices. Very short sentence, but it's so important. Google does not track opens. So if you have a problem, if your domain reputation tanks because you get too many spam complaints, you get a lot of emails bouncing,
Mm-hmm.
or they penalize you for some other reason, getting more opens is not going to help you recover your domain reputation because Google says we don't track opens. So if they don't track opens, but from day number one, what were we all taught that we need to be looking at in our email marketing software? Look how many people opened your email. What's your open rate, right? I just created a brand new checklist called the Open Rate Maximizer Checklist. I cringed when I created that and gave it that title, but that's because everybody's still hyper focused on I gotta have more opens.
Yeah, for me, it was never, and this is going back years. It was never about opens. It was never about clicks. It was about replies. It was about sales generated from, and people
Yeah,
are like, "Well, Rob, that's wrong. We need to know what the open rate is. We need to know what the click through rate is." I said, "Yeah, but are any of those indications of sales?"
right,
No, but
right.
but it looks good. 1,000 people opened our email. You know, 1,000 of them clicked this particular link, but did they buy?
Yeah, ultimately, that is the number one metric that we need to be looking at because you can't take opens, clicks, and replies to the bank and deposit those.
Right.
It's money that gets deposited into your bank account. From the mailbox provider perspective, though, clicks and replies are the most important engagement metric
Mhm.
because that tells you that people are actually interested in what you have. If they click, they're at least going to your landing page or your sales page. And now, are they reading that copy? And then, of course, hopefully that's converting them and convincing them, hey, I need what you're offering me.
Mhm.
If they're replying, they want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
They're really interested in it's like, hey, Rob, you touched on this point. I want some more information. I want to have a dialogue about that.
Mhm.
That's what the mailbox providers are really looking for. And so we have to focus on the clicks and the replies. And you mentioned earlier, and I think probably a lot of your listeners are seeing this, especially since the beginning of the year. Now, pretty well all of the mailbox providers have different tabs as
Mhm.
part of the primary inbox. So it's still the inbox, but in Google, you have your main primary inbox and you have promotions, updates, social, and forget what the other one is. But you've got all these different tabs. Apple in 18 version 18 OS, 18.3 of their OS,
Mhm.
they now have tabs inside of
Oh,
Apple
yeah,
Mail.
and I looked at that this morning and I'm like, "What the hell is this garbage?" It's all cartoony-ish, and then I'm like,
Exactly. Yeah.
and then
And
it's
Yahoo's
putting
got the
stuff
same
in, and I'm
thing.
like, "No, I'll go back to
Microsoft
the
has
old."
your primary inbox and then the focused inbox and the
Mhm.
other inbox. And what we're seeing is that a lot of people's emails are going to these other tabs if they're coming from bulk email marketing platforms.
Mhm.
Why is that happening? Well, the number one reason that that's happening is because of a lack of engagement.
Mhm.
People are not clicking and replying and taking positive actions with your email. So the mailbox providers say, well, we're going to push it over here. Now, yes, it has to do with your headline, your subject line, has to do with your content, the design of your email. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But the number one reason that emails go into the promotions or the updates folder is because they're not consistently interacting with your email.
Right. Yeah,
They
you know,
haven't told Google,
and
like, hey, I want to see this every day.
a couple years ago, I had a client that was interacting with every single email. I mean, always a reply, and I
Hmm.
thought, "Oh, this is good. It's great." Well, last year she passed away, and you know, I'm looking at my replies. I'm like, "Wait, nobody's replying? What's the?" Was that one person that was keeping the engagement? But here's what
Yeah.
I've discovered, though, in a lot of emails that we're getting nowadays, there's no contact information. There's no phone number. There's no text. There's no WhatsApp. There's, No social buttons. It's just an email with a link somewhere. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes I just want to pick up the phone. I have a question. I
Yeah.
don't need to go through all this rigmarole just to find the answer. And the thing is that they don't want us to go to some website to find out, and they got 3 FAQs on their website. Dude, my question is not a I mean, it's like you get so frustrated at this their lack of planning when it comes to creating an email because
Yeah.
they don't want to answer anything. They don't want to put the human element back into it, and I
Yeah.
think that's what we're losing.
Yeah, it's really important that and of course, every email should have, in order to be compliant with all of the spam laws in whatever country that you're in. Um, every email at the bottom of it should have a way for people to contact you.
Mhm.
Now, the only thing that's really required in there is actually a mailing address, but having your phone number in there is ideal.
Right.
Now, you mentioned social media. So you have to be very careful about putting social media links in emails because that can get you into the spam folder guilty by association. So periodically, the various social media sites, it could be YouTube, it could be Facebook, LinkedIn, periodically those sites get on block lists. And if your email contains a link to that social media site and is sent out while that site appears on a block list, you're guilty by association because it's included in your email. And so, therefore, your email goes to the junk or spam folder because it contains a link to a site that's not liked, by one of the block list at that given point in time. Also, another reason I'm very much a huge proponent that emails should have one purpose. Like, what's the one thing that you want somebody to do with the email? And so, it's kind of like, when was the last time that you went to a restaurant, where you're standing at the order counter and the person there, in front of you, they're standing there for 5 minutes staring at the menu because they can't decide, do they want the cheeseburger or the chicken nuggets? And then of course, then they get up there, they place their order, and then do you want this with that, or and they can't decide, do they want to take that upsell? It gets really frustrating, and why? It's because the old marketing adage, a confused mind never buys.
Mhm.
If you have too many things in an email for people to do, they're going to do none of them or very few of them. And so, in my opinion, having the social media icons in the email actually is a distraction. Because if you want somebody to go to read your blog, if you want them to go watch a video, if you want them to go to the sales page, but then in there you've got, hey, go check out my Facebook. Well, guess what? If they decide to go to Facebook, they're not coming back to go to your sales page
Mhm.
because Facebook's going to suck them in. So your emails need to have, what's that one thing that you want me to do?
Mhm.
So you have to
You
kind of
mentioned
balance that.
upsell, and I'm a big proponent of pre-selling the upsell. So in your email, you should be able to inform your clients of whatever it is that you're upselling them. So the more they're educated on whatever that upsell is, that email becomes that tool to pre-sell the upsell. So
Hmm.
maybe you have a service that you want to be able to, like carpet cleaning. I used to have a carpet cleaning business a long time ago, lifetime ago. What I would do is I would send out an email and saying, look, the technician will be there. Um, these are the specials that we have going.
Yeah.
So I would pre-sell them on the idea that they not only need to take advantage of these specials, but they're only good for while the technician is there.
Yeah.
So the
Perfect.
technician now is going to sell the customer on, you know, okay, he's there for cleaning the carpet. How about we also clean your couch? So the couch
Hmm.
may be $100 upsell, but I've already pre-sold it for the client. And now instead of the technicians making an average of $200-300 a sale, now they're making 400 or 500.
Yeah. That's an excellent, thing to analyze. How can you leverage your communications with your clients to be able to serve them more and
Mhm.
obviously, grow the revenue for your business? And tag that. I mean, most people would just say, "Oh, I'm going to send an email out and say, hey, your tech's on the way."
Yeah.
But use that as an opportunity. So there, and I learned this from somebody else a couple of years ago that I never thought of. But when people unsubscribe from your list, like they don't want to hear anything more from you.
Mhm.
But that's an opportunity where you can actually sell them or give them something.
Mhm.
So when they click that unsubscribe link, they have to go to a page that
Mhm.
says, hey, you've unsubscribed. And depending on the platform that you use, some of them will allow you to customize that unsubscribe page. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? If they do, why not make them an offer on that page?
Right.
Now you can get them to opt back in, but you can also continue serving them. And it's just a matter of like analyzing all of your business and say, how can I maximize this to
Mhm.
squeeze as much juice out of it as
You know,
possible while still building the relationship?
for those that, I mean, that followed me for a long time, I'm a big fan of Disney. And I go to Disney parks a lot. But if I'm staying on resort, I'll get follow-up emails. If
Yeah.
I'm staying off resort, at an Airbnb or something, and I'm just buying the tickets to go to the park, I don't get I don't get follow-ups. I don't get anything.
Hmm.
Um, but Disney is this big conglomerate monster of a marketing machine, whereas most individuals like us may not have that sophistication. However, if a client comes to you, signs up to your email, and you're a small team, in that email, have a picture of the team. Have a picture of the people that they're going to be communicating with.
Hmm.
In carpet cleaning, with my team, I would in that email I would say, "Here's the technician who's coming out to your door. Here's his picture." Now you have somebody that when they come to the door, you feel safe because you already recognize them.
Yeah.
You know, if you're calling somebody and you don't know who you're really talking to, on the email, it could say, "Hey, Tanya's going to call you. This is her hobbies. This is what she." And then you're on the phone with her a little bit longer because now you resonate. Oh wow, you like, black cats and but now people feel more comfortable with your service, with you,
Yeah.
and it's that added level that the big companies are using.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, again, what you just described there is building the relationship. It's how can we connect with our subscribers,
Mhm.
whatever method that looks like, for our business that we need to communicate by email. And the more that you can do that, the deeper the connection, the more likely that people are going to buy from you initially and then continue to do business with you as you grow that relationship. But it requires that mindset shift that these aren't just names in a database.
Mhm.
These are real humans that we want to connect with.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about your book. And for everybody that's watching this on video, take your phone and scan Scott's QR code. I just did it, and it comes up with this beautiful website. For those on audio only, listening to your car, your phone, or wherever, what's the email that they can go to?
So the website is hittheinboxbook.com. Super simple. Hittheinboxbook.com.
And what's the benefit of them buying this book? What are they going to gain?
So with this book, it outlines really the four fundamental foundations that you need to master in order to have your emails landing in people's inboxes.
Mhm.
These are the principles of email marketing that really stand the test of time. So I wrote this book 2 years before all of these massive changes happened in 2024 2025. But the principles of this book they still apply, and they actually help you abide by these new rules even better.
Yeah,
And it's a quick read.
I wrote my first book was in 2013. It was all about social media, and like 6 months after it's out, a bunch of these platforms no longer exist.
Yep.
And then a year later, I wrote a book on search engine optimization, and 50% of the stuff in the book is gone. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, this book, and this book is a quick read. It's 76 pages. So
wow.
you can get through it in a really fast period of time. It's plain English, so I don't, go into all the technical stuff, even though we do touch upon it. But it's not a great, you don't have to have a PhD to understand it. And these are things that you can apply immediately with the next email that you're going to send out to your list.
Mhm.
And then, of course, when you get the book, there's several bonuses that are going to come along with that, that are just as important as the book itself. So, some of the bonuses talk about, your subject lines, talks about the content of your emails, talks about, the getting more opens, from
Mhm.
your emails. How can you master all of these things so that you can get the best engagement possible and ultimately get the best return on your investment by doing email marketing?
Yeah, and some of the keywords that we used to put in those headlines are now on ban lists and already dump our stuff into spam boxes. And you can't say free anymore. You
Yeah.
can't even say F dot R dot.
Trying to game the system there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've already figured all that out. And with the AI, their algorithms going through there, a lot of times they'll scan the whole email and find one word,
Yeah.
and your whole thing goes into a spam box.
Speaking of, words that we use. So this is a hard one for me to even break. But when we want somebody to do something and get out of the email and go to our website, what's the phrase that we always default to? Click here,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right? Click here to, click here to, click here to. We take 10 seconds. And how can you change that verbiage? Because click here is known by all of the mailbox providers. Hey, this means that they want them outside of the inbox. Chances are this is probably going to go try to sell them something.
Mhm.
So we may put this into promotions. We may put this into updates. We may put this into the junk or spam folder. So if you're going to send them, so for example, I have a podcast as well. And every Thursday, I send out an email announcing the new episode. But I don't say, click here to go listen to the podcast. I say, listen to the podcast now.
Mhm.
Number one, that's much more effective. What do I want you to do? I want you to listen,
Mhm.
right? So I'm telling you to go listen. If I'm sending somebody to check out a sales page or go check out a new resource that I've created, I take 10 seconds and like, okay, how can I not use click here? And what's the real benefit that they're actually going to get from clicking that link? So if
Mhm.
you're going to take them to join your program, and let's just say that you've got 1,723 people that are in that program already, you could use in your button or in that link in your email, join the 1,723 other people who are
Mhm.
XYZ, whatever the benefits are of that. It makes it, you can use that as social proof. You can make it more compelling, more persuasive for people to click, and you can avoid the spam and promotions folders that way.
Yeah, and we have a few minutes left, and I want to get into bounce rate and or what the email providers, they'll kick back and say, well, that email box was full, that email box was not monitored anymore. They're no longer using that, and so you have to take time to clean up your emails, which
Yeah,
I don't always do, and but it affects your deliverability on the next emails.
it does. Yeah. So the big things that the mailbox providers are looking for, obviously, are engagement, who's clicking and replying to your emails, and then the bounce rates and the spam rates.
Mhm.
So if you want anything, you want an unsubscribe. You don't want a spam complaint. Now I know that we all have that, like hesitation. Oh, I don't want people to unsubscribe from my emails. That's a good thing. But spam complaints are not, and bounces are just as unhealthy as spam. Now, there's not really any metrics that the mailbox providers, when I say that, that's Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Yahoo, that they've shared on bounce rates that they consider like, hey, this is over the top. But if you're sending out an email broadcast and you get a lot of bounces, so
Mm-hmm.
email box is full, they don't exist, like whatever the case may be, that immediately tells them, hey, guess what? You're not keeping your list clean. You're not paying attention to who's actually opening, clicking, and replying to your emails, and they will penalize you for that. So that's why it's important to be looking at your numbers, just like you would do everything else in your business, right? You got to look at your numbers, who's opening, clicking, and replying, and then pruning off those people who are not, because there is a point of no return.
Mm-hmm.
Like at a certain point, if they haven't open, clicked, and replied on an email in X number of days, they're not going to do that in the next 90. They're not going to do it in the next 6 years,
Well,
right?
I had one recently. They replied back, never subscribed, and I'm looking through and I'm like, dude, you subscribed in 2009, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
These are all the ones that you've opened. And I stepped back. I said, yes, you did. And here's when. And the guy replied, F you. So everybody has a tipping point.
Yeah.
And your email may not be that trigger that actually tipped him to unsubscribe or to tell you to F off. It might have been something in his day.
Yep.
And he took it out on that email because it triggered him even further.
Yeah.
And it was funny because 2 weeks later he resubscribed, and I'm like, but people will unsubscribe for whatever reason. Don't
Yeah.
take it personal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that whatever you were offering, communicating, sharing just wasn't a fit for them at that, particular time.
Mhm.
Now the bounces, again, we need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on those, keeping that list clean. But spam complaints, you've got to keep a watch on that. So Google and really all the mailbox providers, um, they say if you get 3 spam complaints for every 1,000 emails that you send, that's too many. And that's when you'll start to have problems. I've actually started to see problems begin when you get 2 spam complaints for every 1,000 emails. So you really want to make sure that you're only emailing people who've actually opted in and requested you email them, and
Mhm.
that you're providing value. And that's why I say it's building the relationships. Because if you're building the relationships, people are not going to want to report you as spam,
Mhm.
right? And so we've got to keep a close eye on that spam. And I've seen this with some of my clients who don't follow my advice. I've seen this with people, who come to me with problems and issues, and their domain reputation could be high. And within 3 days, it's all the way down to low or bad, all
Mhm.
because they got way too many spam complaints. And then you start diagnosing that, and it's like, well, you were emailing people that didn't opt in, you were not providing value, you weren't building the relationship. And then now, once that's happened, now it's a very costly investment and a time investment to try to get your domain reputation high. So you've got to monitor, who's opening, clicking, and replying, what's my spam complaint, and how many bounces am I getting. If you keep
Yeah.
an eye on those, that's going to keep you out of trouble.
And everybody knows I have this love-hate relationship with LinkedIn because it allows people to scrape your email. So I put a false email, not a false one, but one I don't use that often on
Hmm.
LinkedIn. So I know when I get an email, it was scraped.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how do they get away with it? Because I'm sure that they get a high level of complaints. And do they just move from one provider to the next, or do they just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the cold email thing is just crazy right now. There's so many people that are selling that as a service.
Hmm.
And I saw a post yesterday, actually. Um, it was really interesting. So somebody was offering a service that they could do. I think it was like 10 to 15,000 cold emails for people a month. and they would guarantee a 50% or better open rate. Well, number one, it's like, okay, that sounds like a good offer, but going back to what you said earlier, what's the money in the bank?
Yeah.
I can send out 15,000 emails, and if 7,500 of them open it, cool. But what has that done for me? Have I gotten any sales calls from that? And did those turn into sales? And then another guy chimed in, is like, well, your offer's pretty good, but we send out 15,000 emails a day and we get 6 to 8 calls scheduled every day from those 15,000 cold emails. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's a very, very, very low percentage. Is it really worth what you're actually putting in to really ticking off a lot of people?
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, and so doing that cold emailing where you're scraping or buying lists and putting your reputation at risk, there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
There's a much better way to do it.
So everyone that's listening, please head on over to hittheinboxbook.com. Get it right on your phone. Visit Scott, buy his book, learn stuff. And in the meantime, we'll catch you on the next episode. Adios.